everybody, and welcome back to the Wilbur Games YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking again at UCL Fantasy. We're going to be looking at a match day 3 Limitless Draft. Before we jump into that, I just want to say thank you for the support on the previous match day videos. I think the Limitless Draft was the best video ever viewed on the channel, which I really appreciated. So thank you all for watching that, and of course if you're watching, please like and subscribe. Any content that you enjoy, because it really helps the channel grow, and that'll be fantastic, so I really appreciate that. But before I bore you with all that, let's jump in and let's talk about match day 3. So we're going to talk about match day 3 Limitless. Some of you may already use a Limitless in match day 2, of course, they're not as relevant. We'll also later in the week be looking at a wildcard draft, which I quite like going forward for a wildcard when we're going into match day 3, because all the match day 4 fixtures are the reverse of match day 3. So for example, Bayern, you can see at the top of the fixtures here, playing Poulsen, they will be away at Poulsen in the next round. So a wildcard at this stage is a pretty strong strategy, because you can target the certain teams that have got a good fixture this week. They should have a good fixture next week as well, depending on how you see an away game compared to a home game, but they'll be playing the same opposition. So let's jump into the kind of thoughts around the Limitless for this week. So I don't, when I've looked into this draft for Limitless, it's kind of warmed more to me than I thought it first would. So there's quite a few fixtures and quite a few strong teams that you can target in this game week, and you can get some quite high upside, I think, from this kind of strategy of going Limitless in match day 3. So starting from the very top, I'll just pick out the fixtures that I think jump out to me for the Limitless guys. So Bayern at home to Poulsen, just straight off the bat, just one you've got to target. 3 players from that fixture for Bayern, of course. The big thing about that is you'll see the starting lineup as well. So if you want to go for like a Mane, a Sane, like a bit of rhyme in there, if you're not completely sure if there could be possible injury doubts or fitness doubts after the international break, although they will have one league game before that, that'll take any doubt you have for those Bayern assets. So 3 Bayern assets, I think, from the start is a must-have there. I think if you're on a wildcard, you can consider some of these other fixtures down here, but I'd be saying for Bayern to start with, and then if we scroll down and look at a few other fixtures to target, this could be the time for the Liverpool assets. Liverpool against Rangers, I can see, especially at Anfield, that fixture going quite well for Liverpool, so that's why Limitless here for the Liverpool players I think is more beneficial, because away at Rangers you may think Liverpool are on great form, so it might be a tricky fixture for them, but at home at Anfield you expect them to get the job done. So for me, they're another one of the big teams to target. Out of the rest of the fixtures for that first game day should I say, I'm not madly drawn into any of these teams. You could say about Spurs, maybe a Son or a Kane, because you're also on a Limitless, so you've got all that unlimited budget. So I think Bayern and Liverpool are the places to go on day 1, then we move on to day 2. I'm not a fan of the early fixtures here unless you're looking at some value picks on a wildcard strategy. But if we keep going down here, we get to some nice fixtures. I think there's at least 3 on the second day that you should be targeting. Probably a standout one across the whole match day would be Man City at home to Copenhagen. That's just a must-have, I think. Haaland, KDB, Cancelo. Obviously, if you go in for the whole hog, using all your budget as you would on Limitless, I think it's got to be straight in your team, unless there's some doubt around any of the players. So Man City got to be a treble up, probably along with Bayern. Real Madrid, I really wish Benzema was fit. There's a possibility he could be back for this Champions League game. The kind of initial thoughts would be out for around a month, and we're part way through that, about 2 or 3 weeks into that, so he could be back, but you're not sure with the fitness. So that's one to watch out for, because really I'd want Benzema for this. If we've seen play the league game before, I would go for Benzema, but at the minute I think Vinny and maybe a defensive asset you could go for there. Chelsea Milan I think will be pretty tight. You could go for a Chelsea wing back. I'm not overly convinced by that. But going further down, you've also got PSG away at Benfica, which I think will be a pretty difficult game. Benfica's home form is fantastic in Europe. So PSG, same with Chelsea really. I think you could go for one asset maybe from PSG. I won't be going all in on PSG on this. And then another standout fixture right at the bottom, obviously Juve over recent years haven't been as fantastic as we've known them in past years, but a home fixture against that could be Haifa. You cannot really complain. You're not going to get an easier fixture in the group. So I quite like a defensive all-out attack on the Juve backline, which you will see when we get onto the draft in a second, that you can see we're going heavy on the Juve side. So I think, yeah, Juve and Man City, the standout ones. You've got Madrid, who I'd go for as well, and then maybe a PSG or Chelsea if you fancy it. But a few more fixtures on the second day compared to the first day, but it's a bit more spread than I think we saw last match day. So if we go all the way back up to the top, we'll have a quick discussion around some players. So this is a quick draft that I put together. If I was playing the Limitless, I think I'm currently not going to play the Limitless. I think the wild card would be the best strategy for this game week, but I do quite like the potential upside you can get here, especially the Liverpool assets, as we mentioned. So if we start from the front where all the big money is, so we've talked about Man City. I said about the assets as well. So we've got Haaland, we've got KDB sat down here on the bench as well, and Cancelo. So I think, especially when you're on Limitless, you just go for the best free. For the best teams, you go for the best free assets. I think that's a good strategy across any fantasy game. Obviously, there might be some rotation in that City side. Copenhagen, you'd think, should be the easier one in the group. But I think you go all out for the most expensive assets. City might see this as a game that they want to get a good few goals in there to basically seal the group, because they'll be on 9 points out of 9. So that'll basically see them through to the next stage. So yeah, I think they're pretty locked in there unless there's some injury news we get along the way. So the other two striker spots I think are a bit more interesting. I mentioned about Spurs and PSG as we talked about the fixtures. I'm not convinced I'd go full in on their assets. And the fact that Benzema is also out, I think Benzema would be in here if he was fit. But from the fixtures we've mentioned, there's not a lot of striking options that I'd want to target. Like a Juve, you could go for Vlahovic. Liverpool, I'm not fully convinced I'll be going for a striker from Liverpool, because you'll see we've got Salah in there. So there's not a standout striker with Benzema out that I'd be going for. So currently I'm lining up with Mbappe and Kane. Mbappe away at Benfica that we mentioned, so I think I'd just go for one PSG asset. I won't be going all out onto them. And Spurs are away at Frankfurt. Frankfurt have had a very shaky start to the league. Obviously they won the Europa League last season, but Kane using obviously all the funds up front, and you know he can. He's one of the best finishers in the world, really. So he can finish when he gets the chance. So that is how I would be lining up if we're trying to use all that budget. And depending on Benzema's injury, Benzema, if I saw Benzema play like 60 minutes of the league game after the international break, I might be tempted to go for him instead of Kane or Mbappe. Probably Kane, thinking at this point, in case the PSG assets do go off, and then you've got a bit of coverage of Mbappe there. So moving to midfield, we've talked about Benzema, so I've currently got Vinny Jr. in the team. Probably best attacking asset. I know Valverde has done pretty well for Madrid in the absence of Benzema, but I think Vinicius, standout attacking option, nice fixture against Shakhtar, so I'd be sticking him in there. While we're talking about Real Madrid, I'll also have Courtois at the back in goal. Got a nice fixture, as we've said. And you'd hope at home that they can keep a clean sheet, and one of the best goalkeepers on his day. So back to the midfield. Mentioned Bayern as a key fixture to target against Poulsen. Not going to get an easier game in the group. So I'm currently going a double up in the midfield, as I mentioned earlier, Mane and Sane, just to get it ringing off the tongue like that. I also have Alphonso Davies at the back, so a triple up on Bayern there. I'm tempted to go for Mane or Sane as the captain choice on the first day. You've also got Salah and Kane, so I think you've got some great captaincy options spread across the 2 game days, which is better than we had on the previous match day. So that's a good little spread we've got there. And as I mentioned, we've got Salah as well to try and tap into that fixture against Rangers, alongside that with Trent as well. So I think I'll go double in on Liverpool. I might be tempted by Nunez or someone along the line, or Diaz was really what I was tempted by originally, but I think if I had a striking option for Liverpool, I might get them in. But Diaz, I'm struggling to fit into this midfield at the minute. So for me, it'd be lining up like that with Mane, Sane, Salah, Vinny, and then KDB to come on the next day as well. And we've touched on basically all the defenders. So we've got Trent, Alphonso Davies, and Cancelo in the starting lineup. Courtois in goal. I'm going to look into the goalkeepers a bit more. Currently, I've got the Juve goalkeeper in there, but I think the goalkeepers need to have a bit of a good rotation. So I think we'd want someone from the fourth. So I think your goalkeeper, you could even go for an Alisson there to use that third Liverpool option. So maybe get rid of Perrin, so you're not relying on this Juve defence too much. Get Alisson in there as your third Liverpool option, so you've got rotation with Courtois. So you'd hope between Alisson and Courtois they can get a clean sheet. And then touching on the last two bench players that we've not talked about, Juve, I think, got one of the best fixtures in the game week. They've kind of flattered to deceive, I think, in the league and in the Champions League so far. They lost to Benfica the last game, lost to PSG, which I think you'd expect them to lose. So this match day 3 against Maccabi Haifa, they just need to win this game, and you'd hope at home they can rely on a clean sheet. So currently I've got Kostic and Cuadrado as double up in defence, because these are down as defenders in the game. Cuadrado tends to play a wing back. Kostic can either play left wing back or left winger, so he's quite an exciting prospect if he does play in the front three. So you'd think it's a bit of a, well, you can't say anything or take anything for granted, but you'd hope Juve have got a solid chance to win that game. So that is how I've been lining up. So just to go over it again, 2 Juve, Kostic, Cuadrado, Trent, Alphonso Davies and Cancelo as your defenders, Courtois, and I think I'll change for Alisson, so you've got a nice rotation. In midfield, KDB, Salah, Sane, Mane, Vinicius Jr., and then Kane, Mbappe and Haaland up front. So I think if I was going in for this week, the only ones I'd be changing from here, as we mentioned, Alisson would come in here. I'm tempted by Benzema, or maybe another Liverpool asset would be the main changes that could happen to this. Obviously, we're recording this during the international break, to be bear with, guys. So if there's any injuries we get over the next week or so, we find out about Benzema's fitness or anything like that, can make a few tweaks to this, but I think this gives you a good structure of how to go for. And of course, with a Limitless, you want to try and use that budget the best you can. You might feel, from your point of view, you want to change one of these Juve wing backs or wingers, as however you want to call them, to like a Chelsea wing back or something like that, to spread the risk and attack the fixtures in a different way. But for me, I do like a good double up at the back, or even triple up like originally I had Perrin in there, but I think, like we've mentioned, I'd go to Alisson instead. But yeah, I think that gives you a pretty good, strong team. Like, you'd be pretty unlucky in the match day if you don't come away with solid points there. So I do see the upside in playing a Limitless this week to target some of those fixtures. A key thing to think as well is if you've got these big teams, like I mentioned about Man City, so you look at their results so far, and obviously they've won both games. So if they win this game against Copenhagen, they're pretty much, it's kind of, you expect about 10 points to get your qualification. So you could easily see City from this match day 4 and onwards rotating their side. So this could be a great time to play your Limitless instead of leaving it to like a game week, match day 5 as an example. So for me, it's not a bad place to play the Limitless. I was surprised when I built the draft how effective it could be, but that is how I would line up, guys, if I was going for a Limitless. Hope this video has helped if you're planning to do that. Like I said, quite a decent strategy from what I've seen. But yeah, that is it for today's video, guys. Like I said at the start of the video, please like and subscribe the content if you enjoy it. It really helps the channel grow, and I really appreciate that. But we shall be back probably within the next 24 hours or so with a bit of a wildcard draft as well, because that is a viable strategy going forward. But for now on this video, guys, have a great rest of your evening, and I'll speak to you very soon.